Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Carrad Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2019 sci-fi action movie titled Captive State. Now, Captive State's runtime is 1 hour and 49 minutes long. It is directed by Rupert Wyatt. It is produced by... I know he probably got a lot of name calling for his name, but don't laugh, folks. But get a load of this. The producer's name is David Crockett. Davy Crockett. No, never mind. I'm sure he got that a lot in school. Because almost everything that malfunctions is an easy target of ridicule, which I will not do. Because I know what it's like to be ridiculed. Rupert Wyatt also produced the movie. He also co-wrote the script along with Erica Beanie. The composer was Rob Simonson, the cinematography Alex Diesenhoff, and it was edited by Andrew Groves. And the stars of the movie are John Goodman, Ashton Sanders, Jonathan Majors, Colson Baker, Vera Farmiga, Alan Ruck, Kevin Dunn, Madeline Brewer, James Ransone, Rene Moreno, Ben Daniels, D.B. Sweeney, Kevin J. O'Connor, and Kiki Layne. Personally, I think the movie Captive State would have worked better if it was a televised miniseries instead of a almost nearly 2 hours of mishmash. Because that's what I felt about this movie. With its frugal budget getting in the way and its lack of special effects, the cheap factor sure hits its mark in this unfulfilling sci-fi thriller. And to make matters worse is that it still failed at the box office. But if it were a mini-series, at least we would have probably had a better narrative, well fleshed out characters, and proper editing. This movie probably would have worked out a lot better. The main problem with Captive State was that it offered way too many storylines, too many characters, lack of development, and it was quite convoluted in its editing. Probably because of the whole too many cooks spoil the kitchen. I mean, I could have probably come up with that excuse. But no, there were really only 2 writers in this movie, so I can't really come up with that excuse. But I think these 2 writers had too much things on their mind. So instead of not trying to upstage one another, they decided, fuck it, let's just cram everything in. But if you cram too much things in, it becomes a big convoluted mess. I mean, for a sci-fi movie of this caliber should not have been that complex in its narrative and its storytelling. If they could have just stuck with one idea, maybe 2 at the least, maybe this would have worked out better. Or like I said before, a mini-series would have been the better solution. So in the end, it was trying to be a combination of District 9 meets 10 Cloverfield Lane, and it still ended up failing miserably. In the introductory scenes, we get an awkward explanation of how things have come to be in the dystopian atmosphere that it has become. Earth has been under a massive alien invasion that rules with a draconian state of mind, and that we have absolutely no choice but to comply to their requests. Now, when you think about alien invasions, you probably think you'll be seeing laser fights, maybe some sword duels, or maybe some epic battles and all. But no. Suppose the aliens did come in peace But instead of, like having to go at war with them, we decided to just let them stay on our planet to avoid such a catastrophe and just let them take over. But instead of, the movie District 9 where humans were segregating the aliens, well, in this movie we kind of counteracted that and had the aliens do their job of segregating humans from their little closed zones. Because it's either you do that, or these aliens, or they're not even actually called aliens, I believe they're called legislators. Yeah, they're not aliens, they're legislators, which actually means that they don't want to be called aliens because that may sound borderline discriminatory and hostile to their surroundings. It's almost like a borderline racist word to call creatures from another planet aliens. It's probably called out-of-species racism. They're called legislators. They want to be passed off just like human beings as citizens. Since they took over the earth and we didn't fight back, that's what they are now, legislators. We had unsuccessfully defeated the aggressors. The world had surrendered. They now have succumbed to shell governments and must also report to the legislators, which are the aliens that now rule the earth. On a global perspective, all major cities have been forced to create closed zones designed to position the invaders' powers, which makes them vulnerable targets against rebellions. And of those who try to disobey or disregard the legislators' closed zones, well, we are labeled too as rebellions. And if we try to intervene, well, you're gonna have nobody but yourself to blame when they strike back. And when they strike back, not one person's gonna be punished. No. One person provokes them, and you're all fucked. You're all fucked in the face and turned sideways to be fucked more. I'm not kidding here. So, set in the city of Chicago, Captive State concentrates on a radical group with their mindset on killing the principal legislator and to go through the closed zone. It also follows the investigation of Police Chief Bill Mulligan, played by John Goodman, to nab, question, and take out the members of this cell. But he is also on borrowed time with the legislators. The chief is to take out the threat of the invaders, or else the aliens will bring use total tyranny to annihilate an entire section of the city, even at the cost of innocent lives. Losing their lives. You could be just an honorable, innocent bystander, and they don't give a damn. You're toast. Do I look like I'm joking, folks? I didn't think so. The principal action settings are mostly seen through chases, which replace any overblown gregarious special effects. Yeah, our protagonists are not carrying laser guns or pea shooters or any of that shit. No. Basically, our defensive mechanism is through simple chase. Or face the consequences. Yeah, you're catching on. I would have took the first option too, and just simply run. The alien creatures do materialize, however, they're pretty generic in appearance. To make that, even more generic than the alien creatures in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You would expect some more advanced CGI algorithms to the movie Captive State, but the aliens are pretty just generic looking beings. I can accept Close Encounters of the Third Kind because that movie came out in 1977, and they didn't have CGI back then. Basically, the aliens are pretty much kids in costumes with some levels of calisthenics, but that's about it. Here, we got CGI, we got computerized algorithms to make things seem a little more creepy or intimidating, but they're just generic looking in its formation. To make the atmosphere all the more grim and cynical, the world has succumbed to an eternal darkness where the sun is hardly ever in sight. Yeah, okay, fine. You want to make this movie a dark sci-fi movie? Okay, but that's still pretty much cliche. So, under the direction of Rupert Wyatt, he does succeed in maintaining a great level of intensity throughout. However, the narrative runs too much at a slow pace to stay invested. What is supposed to be an hour and 49 minutes long movie felt more like almost 3 hours. Because everything just runs slower than a jar of molasses. So, really, very little was accomplished in this movie in its storytelling and its narrative. Now, I'm not one of these whiners who say, "Yeah, it's too long." Well, no, the movie doesn't necessarily have to go on for over 2 hours, no. But at least try to make something out of something. It's not that hard to do. Keep us invested, come on. It's sci-fi, it should be something exciting and provocative. You don't get any of that here. As for character development, the only thing I gotta say is what character development? It's pretty all fragmented and scattered to be invested into. Their job is to come in when the plot is needed for them. They're pretty much like frickin' pieces on a chessboard. Aside from what is given to the audience, the motives of the characters are quite esoteric and the background stories are incoherent, with maybe the exception of a clip near the end that extrapolates what we've been watching the whole time. And this is actually coming from actors I generally like. I've always been somewhat of a fan of John Goodman because, he's such a really, really underrated performer. He's good with sitcoms. Dan Connor from Roseanne is clearly, easily, probably one of the best characters he's ever done. But, he has also had his good share of movies. And, he's pretty much able to tackle any genre that's thrown at him, be it comedy, be it drama, suspense, anything. But even I got to admit here, his role here is pretty dry and pretty lifeless. And this is coming from John freaking Goodman. His resistance leader, Rafe Drummond, played by Jonathan Majors, and his younger brother Gabriel, played by Ashton Sanders, are lifeless and lack any depth in character or background. Pretty much Bill Mulligan's job is to kind of play an in-between peacemaker between the rebellions and the legislators. But even at the end, he doesn't come across as a clean-cut protagonist either. There really isn't any clean-cut protagonists. Okay, you don't necessarily need a cookie-cutter hero in a cape and long underwear. No, you don't need that. But at the same time, give us some characters that have at least a little level of likability. But we don't have any of that either. Because the characters are so poorly developed and so anticlimactic, there's very little to get invested into. So with no characters we can fully get invested into, this is a major disappointment, because even though Wyatt created a drab dystopian society where civilians can repel upon quite effectively, it's just the characters who are fighting the system lack in depth, and we simply just can't care less about them. So when a character meets their demise, we dismiss them. And not because we couldn't care less, but because there's very little backstory about them. It's like a stranger on the street who gets killed. I don't know who this person is. I've never met them before. And maybe I might show a little sign of sympathy. But who knows? I don't know this person. So I can't really shed a tear. And it's not because I'm being some insensitive jerk or anything like that. I just don't know who this person was that died right in front of me. Am I sad? A little bit. Do I have any kind of sensitivity? Yes. But I don't know this person. He or she is a stranger. Maybe this person was a hardened criminal, or maybe this person was an angel, or maybe somewhere just in between who just met their fate. And sure, I could care about the person because I don't want to see anybody killed or hurt. But at the same time, I don't know them, so I can't really shed a tear. The only thing I could do is just carry them away off the street or something. That's about it. I'll take pity for their family, but that's about the closest I can do. The sacrifices seem to cram so much material into an almost 2-hour long film. It's pretty quite overwhelming. The integrity of the story becomes muddled, and all the scenarios feel kind of rushed. So we can't really invest in the scenes, let alone the characters. There are just way too many subplots all happening, and very little gets resolved. The ending is quite unpleasant, but telling us how it ended without showing us how it ended. This is a movie. We're supposed to have some visual imagery instead of just telling it to us orally. What's the point in that? When we're movie viewers, we're viewers. And when it comes to movie communications, it's not the mouth that does the communicating. It's the eyes. We want to see it, not read it. What's the point of just telling us how it ended when you should be showing us how it ended? It's all about the visuals. So the vision of this movie is solid mainly due to the script by Rupert Wyatt and his co-writer wife Erica Beanie. But the lore about humanity stepping back from an alien invasion has been a timeless symbol of the science fiction genre. Yes, it's cliches that humans versus aliens always have to be epic space battles with flying saucers and laser guns. No. A lot of science fiction themed movies are all about trying to avoid a war from happening and trying to see if we could find a level of peace between us humans and interplanetary creatures. And though Captive State lacks anything original in quality, there are some twists that will likely catch you off guard a bit. Not much, but there are some parts. It does stay low profile in its commentary. Maybe that was its intentions all along, to be subtle. But it still doesn't give you much to think about or really has very much going for it. And it does kind of raise the issues about a political agenda it holds secretly towards its audience. And though it was never really... It wasn't really one that held your interest throughout, the suspense level and the intensity kind of stays with you, hoping that maybe something interesting will come out of it. It's still very convoluted, and we could never really relate to any of the criminals or their lawmakers, because there's little to invest in, and the aliens only show up very, very, very infrequently. Maybe 1 or 2 or 3 scenes. And that was about it. And I guess I really have nothing else to say anymore. Do I recommend this movie? Not really. Because you're not really going to get very much out of it. It had an interesting plot, it had a very interesting concept, and it had some interesting ideas about what it would be like if humans and aliens coexisted and we human beings decided to cop out, wimp out, and not have some kind of war, and to just let the aliens take over our spots as the superior leaders, putting us in our place. Unlike District 9, where we were doing the job of putting aliens in our places, they decided to reverse this whole situation and have the aliens tell us where we should and should not enter. But here, I wish they could have just fleshed it out a little bit more. So in the end, we ended up getting shortchanged. Because everything is just so crammed. And the characters don't have really much to keep us intrigued. So in all that's said and done, I guess if I was to give this movie a score out of 10, I would have to give Captive State a 5 out of 10. It's the best I can do. These guys are probably going to say, "Oh, you're so mean." Yeah, well, I've had teachers that gave tough marks too. And I said the same thing too. But I really can't recommend this movie. 5 out of 10 seems to be the best I can do. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. But just remember the 3 simple rules: be kind, be courteous, and please refrain from any rude comments, and I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Sarah Correct Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.